sack. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again to the 35.
Hungry dogs run faster.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Having Juice with OJ. How you doing, Juan?
Oh, I'm doing great. Championship weekend. My birds are playing. I feel wonderful right now.
At least your team's playing, bro.
Oh, yeah.
At least your team's playing. Since we're on that topic right then, let's talk a little bit about that Eagles-Rams game that just happened. It was a snowy one out there. How'd you feel about that game?
I was there. It was fun. Great atmosphere. Very scary. It felt exactly like that Falcons game where they're just marching right down towards me, and glad they came away with it. Definitely some things you got to clean up. No turnovers, though. You know, when you don't turn the ball over, it seems to be a pattern for success in the playoffs, and as long as they don't keep turning the ball over, I think the Eagles got a great shot to at least get there.
I'm with you. I mean, to start the game, the field was fine, no flurries at all. Being there, how was it when it just totally flipped and it was just a snow game?
So I was at that Lions game when it just absolutely came down on us. It kind of had a similar feel. It was great, though. I mean, the atmosphere was fantastic. You might have seen some shots of a guy that was shirtless. He was like 3 rows in front of me. So, I mean, games like that are always a fun time. I'll say this, playing football in the snow is not very fun. But being at a game where, you know, I'm with my family, watching the Eagles just break off run after run after run. It was a great time. I can't really – you can complain about certain things, but in the grand scheme of it, like Eagles won, Eagles are going to the championship. The game is at the link. Shout out to Detroit. But, yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, to me, with snow games, like, I'm a fan of them. Like, watching them, they're like, it's like backyard football. But when it comes down to playoff games, it's tough for me. Like, I'd prefer it to be like an actual football game. Like, instead of that backyard feel that is great in the regular season, but once it hits playoff time, I want to see, like, the best of the best players play. So I will say I was a little disappointed with that aspect of it. What are you going to do? One thing that we both wanted to talk about a little bit is Jalen Hurts. A little bit of Jalen Hurts talk. You know me, I've always said just not top 5.
Yeah.
He's just not a top 5 quarterback. Are your opinions changing, Juan?
I think it's fair to say he's not top 5. I don't think it's fair to sit here and say he's not the guy, he's not the answer. I've been at both of these playoff games, and especially after the Packers game, you know, they win that game. They win a playoff game by 12 points. I go to the bathroom, and all you hear in the bathroom is people complaining about Jalen Hurts. And to me, it's like, you just won a playoff game by 12 points. Like, I understand you might want more from him, but at the end of the day, this team is a defensive running football team, right? You're not expecting Jalen Hurts to go out and throw for 300 yards. He can do it. He's shown you that he can do it, but it's not what you're expecting of him. And then in a snow game where, in all honesty, he had 140-something yards taken away from him on drops, penalties. You know, if those balls get caught, if Smitty holds on to that one where he gets absolutely crushed, that's a hospital ball, too. I don't love that decision. That's a 47-yard catch. You know, his stats look much better than they do. And this is all semantics. This is all, like, you know, hypotheticals. But it's fair to say these drops and these penalties take away over 150 yards from him, and it's a completely different conversation about Jalen Hurts. You don't hear about Josh Allen not having 100 yards going into the fourth quarter against the Ravens because they won that game, right? And he's kind of proven to you that he can get the ball in the air and throw the ball, but so is Jalen. Jalen put up 300 yards in a Super Bowl game, right? Like, we can talk all this about Jalen, but at the end of the day, the man is a winner. He's been a starter for 4 years. He's been in the playoffs 4 years. This is his second conference championship game. So I'm just getting kind of sick of the whole Jalen bashing. I understand if you want him to play better, that's fine. But to sit here and call for Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett is blasphemy to me. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Like, 128 yards, that's all he passed for. But like you said, just it wasn't there. The weather wasn't there. And also, when you've got the best running back in the league, Saquon Barkley putting up over 200 on the ground with 2 touchdowns. And then if you combine the 3 40-plus yard touchdowns that were had in that game, I mean, you don't really need too much throwing to be had, especially when he was throwing hospital balls, like you said.
Hospital balls, and he got hurt, you know.
And his knee.
That's part of football. I'm not going to sit here and make that excuse for him because he stayed in the game, he gutted it out. But he got hurt. He clearly wasn't the same quarterback that he was in that, like, you know, second half of the third quarter, fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, he's a winner. He's always been a winner, and that's all you can expect in this city. You guys want to win football games, or you want your quarterback to throw for 350 yards and lose football games?
Yeah.
You got to pick one. And for me, I'd much rather win football games and get to host a conference championship at the Link.
I'm with you. One thing I will say about the Rams, though, is that they played their ass off.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew Stafford, he had a bunch of balls that were not getting caught. Like Puka and Cooper and Robinson were all just dropping left and right. When Puka Nacua made that catch on the sideline, I'm pretty sure it's close to where you sit.
Right there.
How did you feel?
Oh, I mean,
How did you feel, my
your
man?
heart drops. I mean, like I said, it feels like that exact same Atlanta game where they're just marching down the field, nothing can be done to stop them.
Crazy.
And then Jalen Carter gets that massive sack. Stafford, to me, I don't understand these conversations about like the Rams possibly moving on from him. I don't know if it's retiring conversation or if they just don't want to pay him. How do you not pay that man? Like Stafford is proving to you that he's probably a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I'm with you.
And to sit here and debate whether you want to move on from him or not after a game like that in the snow, I don't really understand that. The Rams did play their ass off. Their defense came to play. I'll say this: Jared Verse came in. He talked some shit, but at the end of the day, he backed it up.
He did.
So I can't be mad at that. That's somebody that's a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right? You hate when he plays for another team, but if he plays for your team, you absolutely love him. So shout out to him. Don't appreciate the trash talk, but at the end of the day, if you come in and you back it up, there's nothing that you can really say except that you lost. You lost.
You lost, Jared. I mean, that man, what is he, 250, 260 pounds? I think the game before against my Vikings ran 20 miles per hour on that touchdown. That's insane to be running that fast. You are a big man, Jared Verse. You should not be running 20 miles per hour.
That D-line didn't miss a beat after losing Aaron Donald. It's really, really impressive. It's shout out to their scouting department for being able to bring in these players. But Jared Verse is an animal, and I think he's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I think he probably should. I love Quinyon, but Jared Verse is having a dominant season as a rookie, as an edge defender. You don't, that's rare.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that on the episode where we kind of brought up who was going to win these different awards. We brought up Jared Verse and said, hey, like that man, he was a little plus money at that point too. He was like plus 120, plus 130. So smack that. Give us a call. Good for you. Moving on to the AFC divisional round. Crazy game. I mean, the Ravens versus Bills. Like you said, no turnovers with Jalen Hurts on that side. A lot of turnovers in this game. What did you think about this matchup?
It was a fun game to watch. I had to watch it over again because I was coming home from the Birds game and they were basically back to back.
Yeah.
I thought that the Ravens moved the ball well. I think there's a recipe for the Chiefs to move the ball on the Bills. Lamar just made a couple plays that the interception was rough. The fumbles just hero ball. And players like Lamar, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they can get away with hero ball, but sometimes it's going to hurt you. And that's exactly what happened on that fumble. Ball gets snapped over his head. He chases it down. He tries to juke out a DN. And next thing you know, the ball's on the ground and getting ran back by Von Miller for 40-something yards. What a rough game for Mark Andrews. Feel for him. He had to put out a whole statement after the game, basically like apologizing to the Ravens. And end of the day, you probably should because you're one of the main reasons that they at least didn't have a chance, right? You fumble in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes left. Bills go down and score. You drop that 2-point conversion, basically sealing the game for the Bills. I thought it was a great game. I enjoyed watching that game. Josh Allen's a stud. I mean, on the ground. He didn't have a great game through the air, but we've talked about this all year, right? His weapons are meh. Khalil Shakir's having a good year. Keon Coleman, I think, will step into a role. You haven't quite seen Dalton Kincaid step up like he should. Their O-line is solid, but the Bills' defense is a bit worrisome for me. They got gashed on the ground, and they also got gashed through the middle of the field. I think Kelsey could have a big day. Somebody like a Hollywood Brown could have a big day. So I'm excited for that game, but that Ravens-Bills game was fun to watch.
I'm with you. I mean, like you said, hero ball is the name of the game. And going into this matchup, I 1,000% wanted Ravens. Like, I want to see Lamar win other than MVP trophies. Like, I just want him to get that Super Bowl ring. And it was sad to see him go out like that. Mark Andrews, man, I mean, it's not all your fault. It's not all your fault. But you got to catch that John. You got to catch that John in the end zone, bro.
Great play call. Great design.
Great play call. Great design. It was Lamar go like immediately snap, shotgun, go right. Immediately everyone thinks he's going to go for the run. A little dump pass to Mark Andrews. He's done it a million times. It's a little catch like this.
Right there, man.
Drop right in the corner. I literally couldn't believe it. On top of that, I love Josh Allen.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like is him versus the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So
Regular season, it looks good.
Regular season, it looks great. Looks great. And the last matchup they just had in 2023 looked.
What a game.
What a game.
Crazy.
Yeah, like you would have thought Josh Allen was going to win it. So to segue over into a little bit of the Chiefs and Bills talk, Josh Allen cannot beat him when it comes to the playoffs. If we look at the records here, let's see what's up. 2020 to 2021, Chiefs win 38-24. Everyone's like, all right, whatever. Doesn't matter. Next year, 2021-2022, Chiefs 42-36. And that OT where the Chiefs got lucky and got the ball first, and then they decided to change the rules for the playoffs the next year because they were like, wow, that was very unfair. Next year, 2023-2024, Josh Allen has a stellar game. They're up. Everyone's like, oh my God, what was it, 30 seconds on the clock?
13
seconds. Yeah,
13.
Yeah, my bad. Not even 30 seconds, 13 seconds on the clock. Patrick Mahomes marches down there and gets a touchdown. What do we think about this Mahomes-Allen matchup going into this week?
I mean, that's what football's about, man. You love these big quarterback matchups. I'll say this: I don't think that the Chiefs team is the same as they quite have been. But you've been saying this all year, and all they do is win too, right? So it's hard to really.
What were they, undefeated through 14 games or something crazy?
And I think the Bills were their first loss, so it's hard to really say, that the Chiefs are a bad team. I don't think they're a bad team, but I told you the other day, like nothing about them on offense necessarily scares me besides Mahomes, right? Kelsey had a man year. I think Pacheco sucks. I'm not a Pacheco fan. I think Kareem Hunt is a better.
It's a hot take.
Watch him just absolutely get obliterated by gaps, hit the wrong gaps, dropping balls. Like for me, and I think they showed you that they trust Kareem Hunt more in the second half of that Texans game because you barely saw Pacheco. You saw a lot of Kareem Hunt. So I think that they're going to lean on Kareem Hunt more. Hollywood's good. Xavier Worthy's been meh. I just think that Mahomes is a better quarterback and it's a better coach team. And I think their defense has better pieces. But if we're talking quarterback versus quarterback, man, there's nothing like Mahomes and Allen. It should be a fun game to watch. I could also see it somehow being, a 16-14 game with Mahomes taking off and running out of bounds, getting hit, and next thing you know, Bucker's kicking a 45-yard field goal to win it. But I'm excited for this game. I don't know how much I'll get to watch of it in real time, but I think it's going to be a good one. It's a better game than Washington, Philly, in my opinion. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I mean, when you've got two studs coming out like that, firing, it's going to be a good game. The one thing I will say about the Commanders-Eagles game that I'm really looking forward to is watching Jaden Daniels come into the link. I'm interested to see how he feeds off that energy. One thing about Jaden Daniels that just came out recently, I just found out about, was this VR thing that he does. Apparently, he goes on like the VR glasses before every single matchup, and he plays like that exact simulated matchup of that game in like 1.5 speed. So apparently, like one of his like things going into like the draft was whatever team drafts him has to like have this VR set up, like all done for him. So apparently, like he goes through every single different formation and stuff that he could like see the other team doing and him doing, and he plays through it before the game.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I think that's really smart. I think that's good preparation. Doesn't prepare you for the link in January, right? It's an NFC Championship game. I heard this the last two times we've been in NFC Championship games. I heard Brock Purdy was going to come in here and light us up. I heard Case Keenum was going to come in here and light us up, and every time they get blown out. So
you had to throw that jab at Case Keenum there.
It's nothing personal. It's just more the fact that that's who came in, right? rookie quarterbacks 0-4 or 0-5 in championship games and conference championship games as a rookie. It's not that I don't think Jalen Daniels can do it, and as an Eagles fan, it pains me to say that because he's shown you like he's got the heart, he's got the skill, he's clutch as hell. But at the end of the day, it's a different animal when you come into the link and you've got 60,000 fans going absolutely insane, right? Like I'm expecting that stadium to be rocking. I'm expecting the atmosphere to be through the roof. But he scares me. He's a great quarterback. He showed you. I mean, he had 5 touchdowns in the game they played last time. He had 3 in the fourth quarter. So it's not that I don't think that he can't do it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that because he's been doing it so far that this is a game that he continues to do that.
I'm totally with you on that. The one thing about the Commanders that scares me the most is that their run defense is brutal. Is just not there.
It's atrocious.
It's not there. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're smart, if you're Kellen Moore, if you're this Eagles offense, you're just literally running it the entire game, chewing the clock the entire time, not giving Jalen Daniels those, like, hero moments. So that's one thing that I think the Eagles need to just keep harping on. And I don't want to see in the beginning of the game where they're trying to chuck the ball a bunch and then at halftime they switch it again to Saquon being the main guy, which they should just do from the very beginning. But I think the Eagles take this one. I really do. I just love Jalen Daniels, personally.
Saquon, 55 rushes, 296 yards, and 4 touchdowns against Washington this year. So I agree. Feed Saquon the ball. And if they're going to stack the box, you can stack the box against a Kenny Pickett. People are going to bring up the fact they shut him down in the second half of the game last time they played. You're playing Kenny Pickett. You're playing Kenny Pickett. You're not playing Jalen Hurts. You were down 21-0.
He's got small hands.
You were down 21-0 in that game. And, yeah, you came back and won. Cool. Kudos to you. Eagles shot themselves in the foot with penalties, ejections. Kenny Pickett comes into the game. And, you know, people forget Jaden threw a really bad pick in the fourth quarter of that game that should have sealed the Eagles the game. You're one Smitty drop away from – we're not even talking about that game as a win for the Commanders. We're talking about the Eagles winning like 17 straight games. So it gets to a point where I think that they do just need to ground and pound, right? Just feed Saquon, feed Saquon, feed Saquon. And once they start stacking the box, now you throw your deep shots. And now you run your play actions. And now you find Goddard over the middle of the field, you know. Juergens might not be playing, so you might be getting a backup guard, but you know who else is playing a backup guard? Washington. Sam Cosmi tears his ACL. After he comes out last week, a 45% pressure rate for the Lions in the second half of that game after Cosmi gets hurt. You're going to have a backup guard on Jalen Carter. Excited to see that one.
I'm with you on that. So do you have your final predictions with the -6 Eagles? And also the Chiefs are -1.5. I need your predictions on those 2 games.
Oof. Well, I never bet on the Bears. I got too much emotionally invested in them. But I will say history has showed me that every time I'm not confident going into games that they prove me wrong. I think that the Eagles can win this one. You know, I see similar to the first game at the Link, right? It was like 29-18 or something, like 26-18. I could see it being a very 27-14, 27-17 game where the Eagles do cover. Eagles defense is playing lights out right now. You know, it's hard to play lights out in the snow. And, you know, they got kind of moved on towards the end of the game. But another point that, like, we never really talked about, why do offenses always look so good when they need to get it done, right? Like, the Rams' offense looked unstoppable for those last 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, they it just seemed like they just turned it up.
Yeah, but
all
like,
of a
why
sudden
don't we do this all game?
The whole game.
You know, I never quite understood that. So maybe Washington finds a blueprint from that one. But I think Eagles cover. That Chiefs game, man, it's hard. It's just hard for me to bet against Patty. You know, if anything, I would just stick with money line. I don't even want to have to worry about any sort of point covers or anything like that. Like I said, to me, this screams, you know, the Chiefs are down 2 going into the 2-minute warning, and they kick a last-minute field goal and win by 1. So I would stay away from that spread. So if we're going to say that, I guess you'd take the Bills plus 1.5, but I'm going to take Chiefs money line, Eagles -6.
Here we go. I'm going to go against you. I'm going to go Commanders +6 just because I think it's a division game in the playoffs. It's going to be cold. I think it could be a closer game than we imagine. I'm going to take Chiefs -1.5. One thing I've learned is don't bet against Mahomes.
Nope.
So I will not do that. To wrap up the Eagles talk real quick, one thing also that I just came to my mind again. A.J. Brown with the book.
Yeah.
Spiked up the price. Like, that book sold out so fast on Amazon. Shout out to the author. I always said if I was that author and I saw A.J. Brown on the sideline with that book's going from $17 to $50.
Yeah.
Because people in Philly are going to buy that, John. Were you one of those?
I didn't buy it. I'll say this. They won a Super Bowl. I'll buy 5 copies of it. We'll put them right here. I don't know, man. It's you got to let players be players. I'd rather him be sitting on the sideline reading a book than screaming at Jalen Hurts.
And then like OBJ or Antonio Brown on the sideline, taking off his shirt
and like throwing his head into a kicking net. Like again, it's one of these things. Like, what do you want? Do you want a guy that's going to sit there and read a book when he might be a little bit frustrated, or do you want a guy that's going to be out here flailing stuff and screaming at people? For me, he's not causing any problems sitting there reading a book. We're making problems out of it because it's Philadelphia and that's what we do. But I have no issues with it. I think it'd be hilarious if every single player came out, or every receiver at one point this weekend is just sitting there like legs crossed, reading this book. Like, I think it would just be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's gonna wrap up that talk. There was some breaking news that just happened today, Juan. Today, Pete Carroll got hired by the Raiders. How do we feel about that hiring?
That roster sucks.
That roster is
horrible.
hey, they got the best tight end in the league, technically.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Max Crosby. I don't know. Pete Carroll's 73 years old. He's a good football coach, but there's a reason that Seattle decided to part ways with him. Good hire in terms of like bringing a veteran and somebody that's established into your building, but at the end of the day, that roster sucks. Like, you don't have a quarterback, you don't really have a running back. Your O-line is brutal. You got Max Crosby, but like, I just don't see. And then you hire Tom Telesco as your GM, and I don't think he's done a great job in with the Chargers the last couple of years. So I'm interested to see where that goes. As a whole, like, I think it's a good hire because, like I said, you bring in a Super Bowl winning coach, a lot of the time that's probably good money. But that roster is not good money, right? Like, that roster, I keep saying it, that roster sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One other spot he was looking at going was the Dallas Cowboys. To kind of talk about that, Kellen Moore to the Cowboys, guys? Is that going to happen?
That's fine. Kellen Moore's route concepts this year have sucked. You're benefiting from the fact that you have a 2,000-yard rush on your team, which is what you should do, right? Play to your strengths. But in some of these games you watch, and like I've said this like at least 4 times on here, I'm so sick of the 3rd and 7 3 curl routes. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of Jalen having one read and then everybody else just kind of being out there diddly-daddling. Like, Kellen Moore, I think he's done a good job this year handing the ball off to Saquon. If he wants to go to the Cowboys, he can, by all means. I don't know who you're going to bring in, but Jalen's faced this kind of stuff before. It'd be like his 9th offensive coordinator in 10 years, basically. From what I saw, Brian Schottenheimer's probably going to get that job. I'll say this, though. If I'm a coach, the Cowboys' job is not appealing to me. That's another roster that's not horrible by any means, but it's fairly mid, right? You've got an expensive quarterback. You've got one offensive weapon pretty much. Your O-line is aging. Your defense has Diggs, Dexter Lawrence, and Micah. Dexter Lawrence is kind of aging. Diggs is coming off an ACL. You're in a division now where you've got the Eagles who are going to compete. Washington is going to compete. Let's see what the Giants do. You're in a tough division, so you're coming into that. And you're coming into an overbearing owner that wants to handle everything himself, right? That job just doesn't feel appealing to me. Eagles bias aside, like I said, as a football, just pure football, that job to me is not one that screams out to me, let's get this done, right? Like the Bears job getting taken before the Cowboys job says something to me. Like I like Caleb.
Yeah,
Williams.
Ben Johnson. Congrats, brother.
Yeah, big money.
Congrats, Ben Johnson. That's
or
a
the
good
Jags, even the Jags, like we'll get into that in a second, but the fact that Jags got a coach before the Cowboys, like you're the Dallas Cowboys, you should be bringing in and attracting these big name coaches, right? These Mike McCarthy's, these Pete Carrolls, maybe somebody like that. But the fact that you're bringing in coordinators, you're not even bringing in head coaches for real. So that job is interesting to me. Like I said, it doesn't appeal to me, but if Kellen Moore wants to go there, by all means, I'm not mad at it. Go ahead, brother.
And yeah, while we're on the topic of head coaches, what just happened over there at the Buccaneers, Juan? You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Liam Cohen, man, he had a great year with the Bucks. You know, this is their second straight year losing an offensive coordinator, which to me, like maybe Baker Mayfield's underpaid, but you know, he basically
Baker's a dog.
Baker's a dog, and he's getting people put in the head coaching positions. Liam Cohen took a couple of interviews from what I saw. The Bucks basically came to him and said, "Hey, we'll make you one of, if not the highest paid coordinators in all of football." They agreed on it, and then the next day he was in Jacksonville taking their head coaching job.
And he was quiet about it, right?
Yeah, he ghosted him. He didn't want to say anything to him. They couldn't get in contact with him. End of the day, man, it's a business. Business is business.
Cutthroat
Money
business,
talks.
man.
If they wanted to fire him the next day, they could have, and he would have been able to do nothing about it. So the fact that he can go and find himself a head coaching job and make even more money, he got Ben Johnson type money. So, you know, good for him. Is it a little shady? It's a little shady, a little snaky. But like we just said, business is business. It's cutthroat. It's football.
I mean, those head coaches, those GMs have done the same thing to players.
Exactly.
So I mean, who's to stop a coach from going and getting their bag? Especially when head coaches right now and even coordinators are making bread.
And it's guaranteed bread.
It's guaranteed bread, and it's like money that nobody really talks about that they're making.
They don't even have to like disclose what they're
Exactly.
giving you know?
Yeah.
They're going to let him pick the GM. I always thought that was weird. Did you see that clip where Shad Khan and Trent Baalke, the former Jags GM, were like on a Skype call, and somebody asked him, you know, what if a coach comes in and says we want to get rid of Trent Baalke, and Shad Khan straight up on the call says like, if he gives me a good enough reason, yeah, I'll get rid of him.
Wow,
So
I did not see that quote.
So why would you not just get rid of him right then and there? Like if you're already on the fence about it, and this guy's not really done anything for you besides, I'll say this: Brian Thomas Jr. He's a stud. I think Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. I think he has been put in some bad positions, but that organization is just run poorly.
Yeah.
And to let a rookie head coach pick the GM to me also just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes, but it's a power move. It's a negotiating tactic, right? Like you got full control here, basically. So shout out to Liam Cohen for getting his money. Don't love the way you went about it, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up, Juan. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know who you think's gonna win the Super Bowl. Talk to you next week.
Go Birds.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away.